we don't really know how big of a role he's going to play. That is Marcus Sasser. Now, I do know he had the 40-point game in Summer League, can really, really shoot the lights out. I'm a big fan of Marcus Sasser. I really like his defensive intangibles, his tenacity on defense. He's a guy that's going to come off the bench and give the Detroit Pistons some much needed energy. We've already heard comparisons between him and Vinny Johnson. I don't know if we can put that on him in terms of a scorer. I think efficiency-wise, he's going to have a lot of work to do. But for Marcus Sasser, he is about to turn 23 years old. So a bit on the older side, but that hasn't stopped the Pistons, or at least Troy Weaver, from drafting these guys that are a bit older. You saw Sadiq Bey was a bit on the older side as well when he was drafted. But for Marcus Sasser, in terms of how big of a role he can play, the Pistons backcourt, it could be a little crowded, but we have said that in the past. Injuries are going to happen. We saw that. I think you'd rather have more depth than not enough depth. But you still have guys like Killian Hayes, who's going to be trying to find a role with this team. You have Monte Morris, who's going to be a solid veteran backup as well. But I think Marcus Sasser is a guy who can get 15 to 20 minutes a game. I definitely could see him as a guy who at the start of the season isn't getting that many minutes, but as the season goes along, the Pistons start to struggle. Maybe they trade some veterans at the trade deadline. Marcus Sasser could play a bigger role for this team. So in terms of a minutes prediction, I would say probably closer to 20 minutes a game. Maybe he's a 21 to 22 minute per game guy. Like I said, I definitely see his role increasing as the season goes along. In terms of 3-point shooting, in college, Marcus Sasser shot 38% at Houston for his senior year at Houston, 38%, 44% from the field. So he's a guy I expect him to shoot around 35, 36% from three. I don't know how well his shot is going to translate to the NBA. I would expect a little bit of regression. I don't think he's going to be a necessarily high efficient shooter. His field goal percentage is probably going to be on the lower side, but I do think his defensive tenacity, his willingness to be a pest on and off the ball is what's going to be his calling card for the Detroit Pistons in his rookie year. So yeah, Marcus Sasser, my prediction, field goal percentages, 3-point percentages are going to be a little lower than a lot of Pistons fans expect or want, but I do think he's going to find a role on this team, and as he becomes a better shooter, as he becomes a better scorer, I think he's a guy eventually that can come off the bench, give you 20 to 5 minutes a game, average, 10 to 14 points a game, and be an impact player for the Detroit Pistons. So it'll be really, really exciting to see his development. He had 58 steals with Houston in his senior year, so that's definitely going to be something to look out for. But what are your expectations for Marcus Sasser? I don't necessarily ever see him as a starter, but I do think he's going to be a young player that's going to be exciting to watch and develop for the Detroit Pistons.